The Switch and Switch 2 are absolute gold mines for indie games. And honestly, some of the best gaming experiences I've ever had didn't come from big studios. They came from small teams with big ideas. Here are 20 indie games you need to play right now. You ever play something and just feel like your brain goes into autopilot? That's Sektori. It's a twin-stick shooter built by an ex-Housemarque developer you know, the people behind Returnal. And it shows. You pilot a ship through stages that constantly shift and morph around you. Stand in the wrong place when the arena transforms, you're dead. No warning, no slowdown, just gone. Between levels, you pick upgrades from decks that change your playstyle each run, so every attempt feels a little different. The bosses swap up too, so you're never memorizing the same pattern twice. It's got 6 game modes, 5 worlds, and that classic arcade DNA, where the game just wants to destroy you, but in a way that keeps pulling you back. The music is hard-hitting techno, the visuals are bright and overwhelming in the best way, and the runs are short enough to squeeze one in before bed. Death's Door has this quiet confidence about it. You play as a Reaper, a small crow employed by a bureaucratic company that collects souls. And things go sideways when a giant soul gets stolen from you. Now, you have to track it down. The world is dark, a little melancholy, but also surprisingly funny in a dry kind of way. Combat is top-down action. You've got a sword, a bow, spells, and the whole thing flows really well. Enemies are tough but fair, and the bosses are genuinely memorable. Each one has its own vibe and fight style. What holds it all together is the world design. Every area feels handcrafted, with hidden paths, secrets, and an underlying sadness that sneaks up on you the longer you play. It's not super long, maybe 10 to 12 hours, but it's one of those games where the pacing is just right. Nothing overstays its welcome. You finish it and just sit there for a second. Mina the Hollower. This one's from Yacht Club Games, the team behind Shovel Knight, so you know the quality bar is high. Mina the Hollower puts you in a top-down action adventure set in a gothic monster island kind of world. You play as Mina, an engineer who drills underground to dodge attacks, explore hidden areas, and slip away from danger. That burrowing mechanic is the whole game. It changes how you approach combat, exploration, and puzzles all at once. It's got that tight, snappy feel where every input matters and every death is your fault, not the game's. The art style pulls from old horror aesthetics. Think classic monster movies, but in pixel form. And the soundtrack slaps. There are multiple weapons, upgradable skills, and a whole island full of secrets to uncover. It's not trying to be huge, it's trying to be really, really good at what it does, and it nails it. Vampire Survivors. This game looks like nothing. It genuinely looks like a project someone made for fun over a weekend. But Vampire Survivors has eaten more collective gaming hours than most AAA titles, and for good reason. You pick a character, you move around an arena, and weapons auto-fire. Enemies pour in by the hundreds, then thousands. You level up, pick new weapons, and start chaining upgrades that snowball into absolute chaos. By the end of a run, your screen is practically unreadable, explosions everywhere, projectiles flying in every direction, and somehow you're just surviving. The roguelite loop is deeply satisfying. There are dozens of characters, tons of unlockable weapons, hidden stages, and secret mechanics buried under the surface. It's a game that rewards curiosity. You think you understand it, then something new unlocks and the whole thing opens up again. Perfect for the Switch. Sea of Stars wears its love for classic JRPGs on its sleeve, and then some. It's a turn-based RPG, inspired by Chrono Trigger, built with gorgeous pixel art and a soundtrack by Yasunori Mitsuda. Yes, the Chrono Trigger composer. The combat is timing-based. You can boost your attacks or reduce incoming damage by hitting button prompts at the right moment. It keeps fights active and stops them from feeling like a waiting game. You play as 2 Solstice warriors, Valir and Zale, who can harness the power of the sun and moon, and the story takes you across a big, colorful world with towns, dungeons, and plenty of surprises. There's a cooking system, side quests, and a companion mechanic that adds layers to combat. It doesn't reinvent the genre, but it executes it with so much love and craft that it barely matters. It's comfort food, but the really good kind. Planet of Lana II is the kind of game you just want to exist in for a while. It's a 2.5D puzzle platformer set on a gorgeous alien world called Novo, and you play as Lana, now older, more agile, alongside her small, cat-like companion, Mui. The story picks up after the first game, with new conflict threatening their world. But you don't need the original to understand what's happening. You're solving environmental puzzles, navigating through hand-painted biomes from snowy mountains to underwater depths, and using Mui's abilities in tandem with Lana's new moves like wall jumps and dashes. The whole story is told without dialogue or subtitles, entirely through visuals and an orchestral soundtrack by Takeshi Furukawa. It's longer and more ambitious than the first game, around 6 to 8 hours, and every new area introduces a fresh mechanic or creature. It's slow, beautiful, and genuinely moving in places. Outbound is that game you put on when you just want to breathe. It's a cozy, open-world adventure where you drive a camper van through a lush, utopian world and basically do whatever feels good. You scavenge materials, craft gear, cook food, go fishing, keep bees, and slowly transform your van into a proper home on wheels. The world is big and inviting, the art style is warm and earthy, and there's zero combat, just exploration and building at your own pace. It supports up to 4-player co-op, so you can bring friends along on the road trip, which makes the whole thing feel like a camping trip you actually want to go on. There's enough structure to keep you moving, blueprints to unlock, objectives to complete, biomes to discover, but the game never rushes you. If you're burnt out on intense games and just want something that feels like a deep exhale, Outbound is genuinely it. Mio is a Metroidvania with a look unlike anything else in the genre right now. You play as a small robot called Mio, waking up alone on a massive, decaying space station called the Vessel. Nobody's home except hostile automatons and overgrown alien vegetation slowly consuming everything. The art is hand-drawn and inspired by French comics, and it gives the whole game this cool graphic novel quality. You explore interconnected biomes, unlock new movement abilities, fight bosses, and piece together what happened to this place through memory fragments and environmental clues. The story unfolds quietly. It's more about atmosphere than cutscenes. Combat is fluid, and the boss battles are the clear highlight. Fast, readable, and satisfying to learn. It's not reinventing the formula if you've played Hollow Knight. You'll feel right at home. But it's beautifully made and genuinely worth your time if you love the genre.
The wish to save the sun.
Mouse. PI for Hire. This one looks like a cartoon from the 1930s, black and white, rubber hose animation, hand-drawn, frame by frame. But it plays like a fast, aggressive, first-person shooter. You're Jack Pepper, a private detective mouse, voiced by Troy Baker, in a Prohibition-era city of anthropomorphic animals. And what starts as a missing persons case turns into a deep, twisting noir story, full of corruption and conspiracy. The shooting is fast and momentum-heavy, leaning into that boomer shooter-style constant movement, crazy cartoon weapons, enemies that react like classic animated characters getting flattened. The story runs about 11 hours and actually holds up as a noir narrative. There are side gigs, collectibles, and a world that's surprisingly fleshed out. The Switch 2 version had some performance issues at launch that have been patched, but the game itself is one of the more original things to come out this year. That animation style alone is worth the price. Pipistrello and the Cursed Yoyo. This game feels like a lost GBA game that somehow got better with age. You play as Pipit, a young bat who visits his aunt's manor only to walk into a full-blown crime syndicate situation. 4 rival bosses have used a bizarre machine to steal his aunt's soul, and it's now bound to his yo-yo. So now you're exploring a big top-down city, fighting mob minions, and trying to take down 4 crime bosses all using a yo-yo. The combat and traversal are built entirely around chaining yo-yo tricks together. You learn new moves that open up new routes and puzzle solutions, and it genuinely changes how you see the environment. There are over 40 badges to equip that alter your playstyle, more than 1,000 screens to explore across 4 districts, and a story that's charming and funny without being annoying about it. It's one of those under-the-radar gems that more people need to find. Inscryption is a card game, except it's not just a card game. You're locked in a dark cabin with a mysterious figure who wants to play cards against you. The card mechanics are genuinely clever. You're building a deck using creatures, sacrificing them to summon stronger ones, managing resources, and positioning on a small grid. But the longer you play, the more you realize the game is doing something much weirder. The cabin itself is part of the puzzle. There are physical objects to interact with, secrets to find, and the whole thing starts to peel back layers in ways you don't see coming. It shifts genre multiple times over its runtime and stays genuinely surprising throughout. It's dark, unsettling, and funny in equal measure. If you go in knowing nothing, you'll get the best experience. Just trust the game and let it take you somewhere. Dave the Diver refuses to be put in a box. During the day, you dive into an ever-changing underwater trench, catching fish, discovering marine life, dealing with threats, and managing resources. At night, you run a sushi restaurant, serving customers, managing staff, upgrading the menu, and keeping things flowing. Both halves are deep enough to be their own game, and somehow they complement each other perfectly. The writing is genuinely funny, the cast of characters is memorable, and the story keeps escalating in directions you don't expect. There's always something new to discover in that ocean. The pixel art is gorgeous, the controls feel great on Switch, and the loop of dive, sell, upgrade, repeat is seriously addictive. It's a long game too, easily 20 to 30 hours, and it earns every bit of that time. Celeste is a precision platformer about climbing a mountain, and also about mental health, self-doubt, and pushing through when everything in your head is telling you to quit. You play as Madeline, and the movement is tight and expressive. Run, jump, dash. That's it. But the game builds extraordinary complexity from those 3 things across hundreds of handcrafted screens. It's hard, but it's never unfair. Every death teaches you something. The game also has an assist mode that lets you adjust difficulty however you need, which is a great call. The story is told through small, quiet conversations between Madeline and the people she meets on the mountain, and it's genuinely affecting without ever being heavy-handed about it. The soundtrack by Lana II is incredible. It's one of those games that makes you feel something before the credits roll, and then you immediately want to chase the optional B-sides. Tunic is a small fox in a big, dangerous world, and the game is basically designed around the feeling of playing something you don't fully understand. Combat is action-adventure style, stamina, blocking, dodging, and the enemies are tough from the start. There's minimal handholding. Instead, you collect pages of an in-game instruction manual that are written in an invented language, and you have to piece together how the game actually works from diagrams and context clues. It's a love letter to the experience of playing a game as a kid before the internet could tell you everything. The world is full of secrets, and the map itself is a puzzle. It's short but incredibly dense, and the moment everything starts clicking when you realize what the game is actually about, it's one of those genuinely memorable gaming moments. Go in as blind as you can. Cuphead is a run-and-gun platformer that looks exactly like a 1930s cartoon, hand-drawn animation. Watercolor backgrounds, jazz soundtrack, and plays like one of the hardest games you'll ever touch. You fight a series of bosses, each one wildly creative and visually distinct, all across a world where you made a deal with the devil and now have to collect soul contracts to pay it back. Every boss is a multi-phase fight that demands you learn attack patterns, time your dodges, and shoot constantly. It's tough. Some people will bounce off it, But when you finally beat a boss that's been destroying you for an hour, the payoff is real. The DLC, the delicious last course, adds even more bosses and a new character with fresh mechanics. On Switch, it's perfect pick up and play in short sessions and chip away at it. Ori and the Blind Forest Definitive Edition is one of the most visually stunning games on the Switch, full stop. It's a Metroidvania set in a dying magical forest, and you play as Ori, a spirit guardian trying to restore life to their home. The movement system is extraordinary. You start simple and gradually gain abilities that make traversal feel fluid and almost musical. Platforming gets intense, especially during the escape sequences, where the game turns into high-speed obstacle runs that require precise execution. But the emotional weight of the story is what people remember. It tells its story mostly through visuals and music, and it gets to you. The Definitive Edition adds new areas, abilities, and story moments. If you haven't played this yet, it's a must. Slay the Spire is the game that basically defined the deck-building roguelike genre. You climb a spire, floor by floor, building a card deck as you go, fighting enemies, picking relics that modify your run, and trying to reach the boss at the top. Every run is different. Every deck feels different. The strategy goes deep. Synergies between cards and relics can create wildly powerful builds, but getting there requires smart decision-making at every step. There are 4 characters, each with their own card pools and playstyles, and a daily challenge mode that keeps things fresh. On Switch, the card game format works brilliantly in handheld mode. It's the kind of game where you sit down for one quick run and look up 2 hours later. Still one of the best pure strategy games ever made. Hades 2 takes everything that made the original one of the best roguelikes ever and goes bigger. You play as Melinoe, a witch and princess of the underworld, fighting her way out of the depths to face the titan Kronos. Combat is fast and satisfying. You've got a melee weapon, a special ability, a cast, and a sprint, all layered with god boons that you pick up along the way. The boon system is where the depth lives. Combining powers from different Olympian gods creates builds that feel wildly different run to run. There are more weapons, more regions, more characters, and a story that's just as sharply written as the original. The voice acting is excellent, and the relationships you build with characters over multiple runs give the whole thing genuine emotional weight. It's a bigger, bolder game, and one of the best on the Switch too. Blueprints is one of those rare games that's hard to explain without underselling it. You inherit a mysterious manor called Mount Holly, and somewhere inside is a rumored 46th room. Every day, you explore the mansion, but each run, the floor plan reshuffles. You draft rooms from a random selection as you go, choosing what appears behind each door, managing your steps because running out means starting over. The whole thing is a puzzle, strategy, roguelike hybrid that slowly reveals a deep, cryptic mystery through notes scattered around the house. There are no NPCs, no dialogue, just you, the shifting rooms, and fragments of a story that gradually assembles itself. It's one of those games that will have you thinking about it when you're not playing. Cracking a puzzle that's been sitting at the back of your brain for days feels unreal. One of the best games of 2025, now on Switch 2. Hollow Knight Silksong, the sequel to one of the greatest indie games ever made. You play as Hornet, fast, precise, and way more agile than the knight from the original. She's been taken to a vast new kingdom called Farloom, and the whole game is about exploring it, fighting its silk-bound creatures, and uncovering what this strange place actually is. The combat is sharper than Hollow Knight Hornet's needle and thread give her different options, and the boss fights are demanding in the best way. The world is massive, full of interconnected areas, challenging platforming, and the kind of environmental storytelling that the first game mastered. Silksong has been one of the most anticipated indie games in history, and it lands on the Switch and Switch 2 as the definitive version of an already stunning achievement. If you know, you know. If you don't start with Hollow Knight first, then come here. You won't regret either. any one of these is worth your time. The Switch and Switch 2 library for indie games is just stacked right now. Drop a comment with whichever one you're jumping into first. And if I missed one you love, tell me below, because the list could honestly be 50 games long. See you in the next one.